wine stores yesterday approved by the government? Was it sanctioned by health authorities? Good evening. Welcome to Primetime News on TV1. We plan on answering these questions and more on our news bulletin tonight. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the News First team. But before we take a look at those stories in detail, here are your top stories for tonight.
President leaves to the United States to address the UN General Assembly. Were the Chinese organic fertilizer samples brought to Sri Lanka without approval? Experts warn of possible irreparable damage to the soil. Mahinda Samarasinghe to take office as the ambassador to the USA, to step down from parliamentary seat after the appropriation bill. Doctors warn of another COVID-19 cluster linked to the reopening of taverns.
මේ විශේෂයෙන්ම රට වහලා සියලුම අනිකුත් ව්‍යාපාර වහලා තියෙන තත්ත්වයක් යටතේ මත්පැන් අරවේසල් පමණක් විවෘත කිරීමට ඉඩ දීමට අදනමක් මං හිතන්නේ බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලා.
Farmers lament on paddy prices. Human-elephant conflict aggravates.
In a lead story tonight, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa travelled to New York this morning. The president is due to address the 76th General Assembly of the United Nations.
This is the first time that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa is attending an international summit and the first time he is addressing the General Assembly of the United Nations. The summit will begin on the 21st of this month. The theme for the 76th session is building resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainably, respond to the needs of the planet, respect the rights of people, and revitalize the United Nations. The President is due to address the General Assembly on the 22nd of this month. The President is also due to hold bilateral discussions with several heads of state. The delegation attending the UN sessions includes Foreign Minister G.L. Pires, President's Chief Advisor Lalit Veeratunga, and Secretary to the Foreign Ministry Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolombage.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has printed 45.95 billion rupees yesterday. This was the first printing under the hand of the newly appointed governor, Ajit Nivard Kabra. Commercial banks borrowed 27.81 billion rupees at 6% from the central bank, and the overnight liquidity increased by 24.78 billion to minus 209.83 billion.
Did the Ministry of Health grant permission to reopen liquor outlets?
මත්පැන් කියන එක සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය කොහොමත් අනුමත කරන්නේ.
As the Ministry of Health, we are against liquor. There is no basis or argument to allow the opening of liquor outlets given the current situation, especially in a country where all the other businesses are closed. As the Ministry of Health, we do not encourage the sale of liquor, especially under the prevailing pandemic situation in the country.
සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ පැත්තෙන් මොනම ආකාරයකින්වත් ධෛර්ය දීමක් සිදුවන්නේ නැහැ.
මේ මත්පැන් අලෙවිසල් විවෘත කරන්නේ නිරෝධායන ඇඳුම් නීතියක් පවතිද්දී. එතකොට ඒ විදි තත්ත්වයක පුළුවන් ද මෙවැනි දේවල් කරන්න? ඒකත් අපි දන්නා සංචාරක සීමා පනවා තිබුණේ මේ තරම් විශාල ජනතාවක් කොහොමද එන්නේ?
අපිට මත්පැන් අලෙවිසල් වලට ඇට්පා කඩා පනින්නවත් ඒ තැන්වල සෙනග හසුරවන්නවත් මම හිතන්නේ අපේ සෞඛ්‍ය සේවකයන්ගෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්න බෑ.
අපේ සෞඛ්‍යංශය ආරක්ෂකංශය ඒකාබද්ධව වැඩ පිළිවෙලක් නැද්ද මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් තීරණ ගැනීමේදී?
මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් තීරණ ගන්නේ රජය මගින්.
Decisions regarding reopening establishments are usually taken by the government with the involvement of the health sector and the security forces. We have requested to shut down restaurants during these times. However, authorities dealing with this matter are the police and the excise department. If situations like these continue to occur in the future and people gather like this, I think we will have no choice but to go back to where we started.
According to the quarantine regulations imposed under the Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance number 3 of 1897, the competent authority is the Director General of Health Services. Director General of Health Services imposed a curfew on the island on the 11th of September and extended it. In announcing the situation, the Director General of Health Services did not permit to reopen wine stores in the country. Upon inquiries made by Newsfirst, Deputy Director General of Health stated that he was aware that the competent authority, the Director General of Health, had not given any approval for this move. However, the excise department announced yesterday that it has allowed the opening of wine stores and places selling beer cans and bottles. The Association of Medical Specialists point out that this current situation is a reflection of the earlier incident where crowds gathered to purchase the Ayurvedic tonic. Releasing a statement, the medical specialists have urged the government to
Doctors urged the public to abstain from the use of alcohol. The decision to reopen liquor outlets amidst a lockdown will increase the alcohol usage by public, which will result in a deterioration of their immunity. This will eventually result in a surge in the infections in the country. There is even a possibility of people gathering and causing new COVID-19 clusters in the society. Wine stores cannot open without permission from the government. The taverns were reopened after they were authorized to do so by the government. Registered wine stores have reopened. There has been an increase in illegal alcohol distribution in villages and many parts of the country. This is not good. People consume these illicit alcohol and get sick. This is a massive problem. These people say that they don't have money. But look at how many people were at the wine stores. People asked the government for the 2,000 rupees and 5,000 rupees allowances. But when wine stores were reopened, there were queues that were about 1.5 kilometers long. There were long queues at wine stores yesterday, the likes of which we had never seen before. If the law was enforced properly and the quarantine curfew was truly in effect until the 1st of October, would there have been so many people at those wine stores? People were scuffling to purchase alcohol. If the leaders of our community did not just limit the law to gazettes and circulars and actually enforce it, the law in our country would not be so weak.
COVID-19 claims the life of another doctor, Dr. Sugat Bandara. He served as a doctor attached to the outpatient department of the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital. Dr. Sugat, who worked tirelessly at the COVID-19 patient detection unit, tested positive for COVID-19 10 days ago. He breathed his last while receiving treatment at the intensive care unit of the Kurunegala Teaching Hospital. He worked tirelessly at the OPD unit where patients suspected to have COVID-19 are first screened. He worked for a very long time at the OPD unit, taking charge of treating COVID-19 patients. His contribution in conducting the vaccination drive at the Kurunegala General Hospital was extraordinary. Dr. Sugat Bandara, a father of two, was 57 years old at the time of his demise. While working as a medical professional, Dr. Sugat was a person who had a passion for the arts. He was an artist as well as an author. Dr. Sugat, who dedicated his life to the service of others, bid adieu to this world, leaving behind only a fond memory among the general public who will forever be in his debt.
In more local news, the Sri Lankan High Commissioner to the United Kingdom said that Sri Lanka will be removed from the UK's red list with effect from 4 a.m. on the 22nd of September.
I'm pleased to say that Sri Lanka has been moved from the red list to the amber list in the United Kingdom with effect from the 22nd of September 2021. This is in recognition of the accelerated vaccination drive and the management of the pandemic by the Sri Lankan authorities. The timing of this announcement is pertinent to the travel and tourism industry. We will now be able to robustly engage to recapture the winter market, especially at a time when competitor destinations remain on the red list. Sri Lanka is expected to participate at the World Travel Mart, which will take place in early November in London.
The UK arm of Expedia, the world's largest online travel company, said today that makes it a popular red list country when comparing this month with September 2020, with a rise in interest of 70%, while the Maldives is up 30% and Sri Lanka at 20%. Research conducted by the World Travel and Tourism Council has revealed Sri Lanka's economy was facing a loss of more than 260 million Sri Lankan rupees each day when it remained on the UK's red list for travel since it was imposed. UK nationals have been the highest foreign travellers to Sri Lanka after India in both 2018 and 2019.
The government of Sri Lanka took a bold decision to convert the agricultural sector in Sri Lanka to be fueled 100% by organic fertilizer. Recently, samples of organic fertilizer were imported to the country. What happened next? We'll bring you the details after this short commercial break.
Bellboy's got you covered. Download Bellboy today to get all your household appliance fixing and repairs done. Now available on Android and iOS.
Welcome back to the news. There is a growing discourse in the country about the bacteria that was found in samples of organic fertilizer imported from China. This report delves deep into that matter.
A microorganism named Erwinia, harmful to animals, plants and humans, was discovered during a test conducted by the National Plant Quarantine Service at the Department of Agriculture. This harmful bacteria can damage crops such as potatoes, onions and carrots. Convening a media briefing yesterday, the Minister of Agriculture said that the tests conducted by an independent laboratory appointed by the Sri Lanka Standards Institute or SLIS did not detect the Erwinia bacteria in the organic fertilizer samples imported to Sri Lanka. However, according to the information revealed at the media briefing yesterday, experts point out that a test to identify the bacteria Erwinia had not been conducted on these samples.
This sample that was sent had not been tested for any pathogens. What is the impact that this will have on the agricultural sector? These samples were tested only for 2 diseases caused to humans. In addition to these bacteria, there are other viruses and organisms that can cause diseases. There is no evidence or recognition that this stock of organic fertilizer is free from all of that.
The Chinese company is preparing to bring down organic fertilizer produced by aquatic plants. Professor Nalika Ranatunga points out that there is a suspicion that non-organic matter could also be included in these stocks of fertilizer.
We are planning on importing granular fertilizer. There is only 10% of sea extract, but the total nitrogen content in the fertilizer is about 15 to 16%. So there is a massive suspicion as to if other non-organic matters such as urea or urban waste are included in this stock of fertilizer. There is an issue whether some other items with nitrogen were added to these stocks.
Experts in the field point out that according to the law of our country, even samples containing such bacteria cannot be brought into the country.
Even samples must be brought into the country after obtaining a proper safety certificate. All samples brought down outside that process are irregular and illegal. If such samples are brought, legal action must be taken against such acts. Any samples that have been issued with a safety certificate can be presented, and the National Plant Quarantine Service will state that this can be used only under these conditions. Bring samples that do not have this safety certificate from overseas, and testing it at laboratories or using it in the field is dangerous.
The Minister of Agriculture at the media briefing yesterday revealed that some of this organic fertilizer was sent to the Batalegoda Rice Research and Development Institute.
These samples are being sent to the Batalegoda Rice Research and Development Institute so that field tests can be conducted to ascertain the potency of the fertilizer and not to check if there are other organisms that are harmful to the agricultural industry of this country. Also, in addition to the damage caused to the farmers, Erwinia also causes post-harvest diseases. There is a risk of massive damage being caused to the harvest while the harvest is being distributed among the consumers as well.
The Batalegoda Rice Research and Development Institute conducts many tests regarding the agricultural sector in the country. Why was this fertilizer brought to such a research facility? Who can give us an assurance that this will not enter the country? Microorganisms cannot be seen by the naked eye. They are microorganisms and they can spread. After this is added into our soil, our fields will be destroyed. When this fertilizer is added to our soil, it will cause various diseases to our plants, and then we will have to import medicine from China to treat these diseases.
According to the Ministry of Agriculture, the tender to import fertilizer to the country had been awarded to the Qingdao Seawind Biotech Group. The company's production facility is located in the vicinity. Seawind Biotech claims to be a leading manufacturer of organic fertilizer using aquatic plants with 20 years of experience in the field. This is how Seawind Biotech develop their aquatic plants. Meanwhile, Reuters reported recently that harmful algae has been spreading across about 1,700 square kilometers in the seas surrounding the Chinese port city of Qingdao. The report states that the algae had been infesting these waters for about 15 years and that the strong odor emitted by the algae had caused much distress to the residents there. Foreign media reported that about 12,000 boats were used to remove the algae from the infested waters. The amount of algae removed from the waters in the month of June alone was 450,000 metric tons. Against such a backdrop, isn't it the wise option to proceed with caution when deciding to import such organic fertilizer from China?
One is Bhutan. It's a small country with 700,000 people. In 2008, they decided to go 100% organic by 2020. And how much did they get? They went only 10%. You see, there's no country in the world which is fully organic. For example, of the countries in the world, only there are 17 countries that have more than 10%. And they went into organic in the 1960s, 70s. So this is not something that can be done in a hurry.
While the fertilizer issue continues, farmers cultivated paddy this season amidst many problems. The problem facing farmers now is that they are not able to sell paddy at a rate that would break even and give them at least the cost they spent.
The farmers are not ready to sell a kilogram of paddy at 55 rupees. We sold it at 65 rupees last time around as well. The politicians say that the cost of living has increased by 40% when the paddy price is reduced by 5 rupees or 10 rupees. How can that person make ends meet? There is no point in doing various things that no one understands. Kiri samba being sold at 70 rupees is unacceptable. Paddy and rice are two different things.
කීරි සම්බා රුපියල් 70 කියන සාධාරණ මිලක් නෙවෙයි කොහොමදවත්. වී හාලුයි කියන්නේ දෙකක් නෙවෙයි. එකක්. ගොවිතැන කරලා අවසානයේ අස්වරු නෙලන කාලේට
We toil hard and cultivate, but the government intervenes and sell our crops for cheaper prices. This is not fair. If this is to continue, it should be fair. We are against this system where the farmer is being neglected. If the government is trying to import rice, we are against that as well. The farmers will rally against this.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳන්න හදනවා නම් ඒකටත් අපි දැඩිසේ විරෝධය පළ කරනවා. ඒ සඳහා අපි ගොවියෝ පෙළ ගස්සනවා.
Meanwhile, representatives of farmers' organizations in the Valikanda Mahaveli B zone in Polonnaruwa had convened a media briefing today.
විශාල පිරිවැයක් මේ පාර දරලා තියෙනවා වෙන කන්.
We have spent a lot compared to other seasons. We have spent more on cultivation, on fertilizer, and even the harvesting cost is more than other seasons. Go and check for yourselves. There is paddy at every house. If you are saying we are going to import, we will give up farming. We are extremely disappointed about the fate that has befallen on the paddy farmers. We are people who worked hard for the government to come into power.
The harvester farmers in the country are confined to their homes because there is no fixed price for their yield. Wild elephants encroach on their villages in search of the harvest. In the last 48 hours, a father of 3 in Oyamadu, Anuradhapura, and a mother of Rajakalathanna, Ampara, paid with their lives due to wild elephant attacks. The father of 3, who was killed in a wild elephant attack in Oyamadu, was 39 years old. A 65-year-old woman was attacked right opposite her residence in Rajakalathanna, Ampara. The son of the victim, who suffered injuries from the attack, is currently receiving treatment at the Ampara General Hospital. A herd of elephants encroached onto the Nagaravava village in Hammantota and attacked a house. The 3 children and their parents, who were all inside the house at the time of the attack, escaped a narrow death.
The discourse on the construction of a walking path on top of the Polonnaruwa Parakrama Samudriya Bund is continuing. A media briefing concerning the issues was convened at the Polonnaruwa Alutwawa Sri Sudarshanarama today. A group of farmers of the Alutwawa Agrarian Society who arrived at the location prior to the commencement of the media briefing expressed their disapproval in conducting the media briefing.
They have organized a press conference at the Alutwawa temple with some Theras who are loyal to Roshan. This is ridiculous. This is our village temple. They want to carry out the projects to pocket their commissions. They can only pocket these commissions if they carry out these projects. That's why they are in a hurry to conduct this project. They're expecting our youngsters to jog on this track. Are they insane? No, they are from Dimbulgala. Anyone can come, there is no argument there. But what they are trying to do here is they want to send the message out that many are in favor of it and only some are against it. Even tomorrow they organized some event on top of the Bund with the participation of the youth movement of Roshan. They are trying to create an opinion in the country that there are people who support these acts.
However, the media briefing commenced after the farmers left the temple.
When developing cities, these type of town beautification projects must take place. Funds have been allocated for the project. We would like to take this opportunity to educate the public in this regard. This is the reason why all of these Theras are present here today. It is wrong to obstruct these development projects carried out by the leaders of the country. These interruptions have caused great misfortune to this nation. We used to travel in bullock carts back then, but we don't do it anymore. We are living in the 21st century. This is a time where we need to act more responsibly. Also, we would like to express our gratitude to the President, the Prime Minister and the Polonnaruwa political heads for continuing these development projects amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
Endemic to our nation, found nowhere else on earth, a cascade system of ancient Sri Lanka. Let's make our irrigation heritage a UNESCO World Heritage.
The 9 foreigners arrested in international waters with a large haul of heroin and the vessel that was seized were brought to the port of Colombo today.
The heroin was found on a foreign fishing vessel in the southern international deep sea about 850 nautical miles off Sri Lanka on the 10th. The Sri Lanka Navy said there were 9 foreigners on board at the time. The fishing vessel carrying the heroin along with the suspects were brought to the Colombo harbour this morning. During a joint operation conducted by the Sri Lanka Navy and the State Intelligence Service on the 31st of this month, 5 suspects were arrested for the possession of 290 kilograms of heroin in a Sri Lankan multi-day fishing trawler. This racket was uncovered during interrogation of the suspects and the 7 suspects in the foreign multi-day trawler who were arrested on the 4th of this month in the international waters south of Sri Lanka with more than 336 kilograms of heroin. The drugs are being trafficked by Sri Lankan smugglers overseas using foreign vessels and individuals to transport the drug across the Arabian Sea to deep international waters southwest and south of Sri Lanka. The drugs are then smuggled across the high seas using some Sri Lankan multi-day fishing vessels and owners who assist them, and it is subtly brought to Sri Lanka. The amount of heroin brought into the Colombo harbour today is over 170 kilograms, and the Sri Lanka Navy stated that its street value is over 1.5 billion rupees.
These were the views expressed at 2 media briefings held yesterday regarding the April 21st attacks. This issue surrounding the April 21st attack is not something that should be taken to the international community. Solve internal problems internally. If the TNA is doing the same thing as Prabhakaran did, that is wrong. If the same thing is done by the Catholic Church in the country, that is also wrong. If the Cardinal is doing the same thing Prabhakaran did, that is wrong. We are pleading, do not get together and destroy the country. Do not disrespect the motherland. If there are problems, go talk to the head of state. Solve it with him.
ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් ඵලයව ගිහිලා කතා කරපියව මහ එකත් එක්ක රාජ්‍ය නායකයත් එක්ක ගිහිලා කතා කරලා මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ විදියට විසඳා ගන්න කටයුතු කරන්න. පහුගිය දා ඔබට පේන්නේ නැති එක්තරා තරුණයෙක්.
You may have seen a youth making a baseless statement recently that this government and the president used the April 21st attack to come into power. He was taken to the police for questioning. There were 2 Catholic priests who accompanied him that day. They are members of groups that aligned themselves with the LTTE back in the day. We clearly state that there is a conspiracy here.
යුද්ධ අවස්ථාවේදී LTTE එකට පක්ෂව සංවිධානය වෙච්ච සංවිධානවල සමාජිකයින්. ඒ නිසා අපි පැහැදිලිව කියනවා මේ යට වෙනම කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් තියෙනවා.
Who will be in charge of the country during the absence of the president and the prime minister? Views were expressed in this regard today. In a few days' time, the Prime Minister will return to the country. When he returns, he will be taking over the responsibility. Until that, the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet will be in charge of the country. President bestowed this responsibility yesterday during the COVID-19 task force meeting. He said that he will be travelling overseas, and until he returns, he requested us to take up the responsibility. As members of the Cabinet, we will take on this responsibility alongside the Minister of Finance and act accordingly. Sri Lankan Podu Jana Perumuna Kalatara district parliamentarian Mahinda Samanasinghe is to step down as a member of the parliament to take up the post of Sri Lanka's ambassador to the United States of America and Mexico. Mahinda Samanasinghe has decided to step down from his parliamentary seat upon a request made by the president to take up the role as the ambassador. Accordingly, it is reported that the resignation is to take place after the appropriation bill in parliament. After Mahinda Samarasinghe, Lalit Warnakumara is next in line from the Kalutara district preferential list of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna.
The United States has admitted to killing innocent civilians in Afghanistan. We'll bring you the details after this short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Primetime News on TV1.
Problems are a part of life. When does it end? Is this what life has come to? Can't we choose our own fate? No. This is our time. The time to move forward.
Moving forward.
Welcome back to the news. In news from the international arena, the United States has admitted that a drone strike in Kabul days before its military pullout killed 10 innocent civilians in Afghanistan.
A U.S. Central Command investigation found that an aid worker and 9 members of his family, including 7 children, died in the 29th August airstrike. The youngest child, Sumaya, was just 2 years old. The strike on the 29th of August came days after suicide bombing. KP killed at least 175 people, including 13 U.S. service members. It was one of the U.S. military's final acts in Afghanistan before ending its 20-year operation in the country. The Pentagon officials initially said that secondary blasts that followed the drone attack indicated that the vehicle was carrying explosives. U.S. Central Command General Kenneth McKenzie said U.S. intelligence had tracked the aid workers' car for 8 hours, believing it was linked to the ISK militants, a local branch of the Islamic State group. At one point, a surveillance drone saw men loading what appeared to be explosives to the boot of the car, but these turned out to be containers of water. One of those killed, Ahmed Nasser, had been a translator with the U.S. forces. Other victims had previously worked for international organizations and held visas, allowing them entry to the U.S.
Officers of the Anuradhapura Padulugama veterinary unit took steps to treat a wild elephant calf that was injured after biting into a jaw bomb on the surface of the Kalavavar. We leave you tonight with footage of how this elephant calf was treated, of course, under the good care of that veterinary unit. Thank you very much for tuning into Primetime News on TV1 tonight. I'm Charlotte Benedict, the News First team. Take care and God bless.
ඒ ඩාට් ටික වැඩ කරලා දෙවුවා. කියන්න බලන්න.